Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. My 29 male, wife 27 female, has been working from home the past few months and has started having her high school ex over a lot. I told her this is unacceptable. Am I out of the wrong for this? Hello, and welcome to everyone. I recognize that the title may be confusing if you don't know what I'm talking about, so please bear with me while I explain. As a result, my wife has worked from home since the beginning of COVID. Due to the fact that my company would never let us to do so, I was forced to drive to work every day. She has a friend with whom she socializes on a regular basis. He's been invited to hang out with the two of us in the past as well. He's courteous, pleasant to be around, and generally well-behaved. This hasn't been a problem for me thus far. When my wife and I started dating, she told me that she had dated him in high school. According to her, they were in a relationship throughout their freshman and sophomore years. They never had relations, but they did have a good time. It was during their senior year that they started to rekindle their friendship. He was in a relationship with a girlfriend at the time, who was also seeing someone else. She says that after they divorced, there was no longer any romantic attraction between the two of them. My wife said that she would be able to work from home once COVID was up and running. I was glad and thrilled for her since I knew it would be easier and even save her money on gas if she went this route. She said that her friend would be able to work from home as well, and that they may meet up sometimes to look over their work and provide assistance to one another. They both work in a similar field. When I returned home one day, he was waiting for me. Since my wife had told me of the situation, I didn't give it much thought. They were both in front of computers and seemed to be working quite hard. For a time, things were like this. After a few weeks, I'd return home to find them casually hanging around and having a good time with each other. They'd be playing a game at one point, drinking at another, and eating at yet another point throughout the evening. This was beginning to seem bizarre to me. He seemed to be getting more attention than I was, and she appeared to be having a more enjoyable time with him than I was having with him. Finally, when I returned home one day, it was the last straw. While they were watching television, they were both seated on the couch, with her head resting on his lap. Prior to conversing with her, I waited until he had left the room. I was outraged at the time. I screamed at her, telling her that their actions were terrible and that she had no reason to be sleeping with a friend who was acting inappropriately. I expressed my concern that she seemed to be paying more attention to him than to her husband, and that they appeared to be having more fun together than we were. Not to mention the fact that they had previously dated and gotten into trouble. She grew upset and said that I had no authority to tell her that she could no longer be in the same vicinity as another person. The fact that I thought she was cheating on me with him enraged her, and she pledged that she was not and would not do so in the future. She said that all they were doing was relaxing, and that it was totally okay for her to put her head on his lap while they were doing so. He hadn't been at home for the previous 2 days when I got home from my work trip. She says she hasn't seen him since we last spoke with one another. I expressed my regret for being so upset. She doesn't seem to have accepted my apologies, as she has remained relatively quiet in my presence ever after I apologized. What actions can I take to make things better? Is she attempting to deceive you? What is the best way to tackle the problem between her and her friend? Update. Last week, I wrote about my wife spending time at our home with an ex-boyfriend from high school. Since COVID's inception, he had been visiting her and working from home with her. At first, I didn't think much of it, since they were merely assisting one another with their job. Then they began to hang out and do other things. I'd had enough when I saw her lying down with her head on his lap. I told her he couldn't come over anymore. She was enraged and took offense, but she consented. The majority of the folks here agreed with me that her actions were suspicious. I was informed that he may still come over throughout the day and leave before I arrived. I ended up purchasing a camera that I could set up and conceal while at work. I placed one in the living room and another in the bedroom. Nothing out of the ordinary occurred on the first day they were put up. It occurred on the second day. The ex arrived. They were simply working at first, but then he became somewhat tactile with her. It proceeded to the point that they required going to our bedroom and sleeping together. I was taken aback. I had no idea what to do. As soon as I saw my wife again, I asked her whether she was still seeing him. She flatly rejected it. I informed her that I had cameras put throughout the home. Her expression drastically shifted at that point. She was aware of what I had seen. She burst into tears right away. I told her she had to leave the home. She attempted to apologize and explain herself, but I was having none of it. We've only spoken to each other once since then. I informed her that I couldn't see anything other than a divorce happening. She said that she does not want that and requested if I would attend to couples therapy once before making that final choice. I agreed, if grudgingly. I'm not expecting it to succeed, and I'm mostly doing it to amuse her. As I type this, I'm still searching for and attempting to contact divorce counsel. Story 2. I cheated on my wife and I missed the other woman 18 months later. Background. I cheated on my wife with a beautiful, successful, and foreign lady whom I met at a pub. I've never done anything like this before or since, and I feel really since my wife is a lovely person and fiercely devoted, and even more because I no longer believe I'm in love with her. I care for her, she's definitely my best friend, but there's nothing romantic about her. The affair was quite intense, and we accomplished much more in 1 week than my wife and I had done in the previous years. I felt bad for betraying my wife, and after a week, I confessed everything. I had a falling out with the other lady. OW sent me a letter about how she was falling for me and how much she would miss me. It crushed my heart to say goodbye to her, something I never told anybody. But when my wife threatened to remove my kid, I burst into tears for the first time in years. OW only engaged with me because I told her I was divorced from my wife. When she discovered I was still married, she was upset, but I explained that things were not going well at home and that I wanted to divorce. I did. Today, after 18 months of not speaking to the other woman, all I want to do is rush back to her. I find myself seeking her up online, and I'd even sent her a lengthy and soppy letter lately that I didn't send, in an attempt to get this feeling to go away, but I simply can't. I've tried couples counseling and have recently begun 1:1 sessions with a counselor through Zoom to get to the bottom of this, but it's like a stuck record in my head. I occasionally listen to songs that remind me of the OW simply to recall how much fun we had. I don't want to upset my wife. She constantly asking why I'm only half in the relationship, and the honest truth is that I can't bear the thought of leaving my kid. If I tell her how I feel, I know she'll leave and take our son. For the record, I'm a fantastically attentive and dedicated father, but a distant and aloof spouse. Divorce seems to be my only option at this point. My wife abandons me, takes our child, and departs to her own country without saying goodbye. It's been about 18 months since I called the OW out of the blue, hoping she recalls my bumbling antics. I see my child, who is growing up without me, every 3 to 6 months. With his in-laws, he spends the overwhelming amount of his time. My wife either suffers as a consequence of the process or emerges from it stronger as a result of it taking place without me there. In the event that my theory about OW is accurate, we will reconnect and embark on an exciting and engaging journey through life. Otherwise, I'll be alone and swiping my way into my 40s, probably begging my wife to pick me up and bring me home with her, stay married, focus on my relationship, and spend the rest of my life wondering what may have been with OW. Even though I'm trying to be free of OW someday, it doesn't seem to be possible after 18 months. I've been in this circumstance for about a year, and it's causing me to be depressed, uninspired, and just unhappy. Knowing my views, if someone close to me was married to someone who shared my viewpoints, I would advise them to divorce him immediately and flee a mile away. Trying to forget about OW seems like the right thing to do, but I don't want to forget about the experience, the intensity of it, or the way she made me feel. I don't want to forget about her. I'm looking for advice from those who have gone down either route and what their experiences were.